Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, and with the holidays around the corner, I thought peppermint would be the most fitting flavor out there with the holidays. Just the minty fresh of the peppermint just reminds me of the crisp cold air of winter. So I decided to scour Pinterest to see if I can find any amazing peppermint DIYs and see if I can put any to the test, and I did come across a few. So here we have some peppermint ornaments, peppermint spoons, peppermint bowls, and these delicious peppermint kiss cookies. So let's begin. So I actually debated on testing out these pins because I thought how hard could they really be, and I decided maybe it was just the quality of the peppermint that may have been the issue, and that's how they came across some issues when making these DIYs. So I decided to compare two different brands. So the first one in the orange bowl is a Target brand. I believe it's the Market Pantry. I'll have it down below. And then the one on the green plate, or the green bowl I should say, is the dollar store brand, and I believe that's Brock's Star Brights. And if you see in the close-up, they actually look different. I'm not sure if the camera picks it up, but in person there's definitely a difference between the two. So the first DIY we're actually going to make is the Peppermint Bowl. So you're first going to line your baking sheet with some parchment paper, then you're going to place 5 peppermints in one straight row, then you're going to grab another 4 to place both above and below the row of 5. Then lastly, you're going to place 3 above the 4 and 3 below the bottom 4 as well. Then you're just going to bake in your oven at 300 degrees for 8 minutes. You do want to keep an eye on them. Once they become very shiny and begin to melt, that's when they're ready. But again, my oven was at 8 minutes long. So once your peppermints are out of the oven, you do want to start working with them immediately before the actual candy does kind of harden in that pretty pattern. So you want to take your mold. I'm actually using a salsa bowl, then spray it lightly with some Pam. Then you're going to place your salsa bowl directly in the center of your candy. Then you want to start molding the candy to the actual salsa bowl. So that's why you want to be very careful because it's still hot. Using an oven mitt, just starting to kind of mold the shape or mold the candies to the bowl themselves. Then you just want to let it sit for a couple minutes just until it cools, and it'll set to the actual bowl itself. And it actually pops off easily, which is awesome. So here are my comparisons. The one on the left is the Target brand, the one on the right is the actual dollar store brand. They both held up really well, but the only issue is the color. The dollar store brand is kind of like an off-white pink opposed to the actual red that you do see in peppermint. Now the next pin we're putting to the test are the holiday peppermint ornaments. So you want to make sure you're using metal cookie cutters and lining your baking sheet again with parchment paper. You also want to lightly spray your cookie cutters with some Pam as well. This will help for them to not stick later. Then you're going to place all of your peppermints individually into those cookie cutters, making sure not to overlap any. And if you have any empty spaces, just make sure you actually cut a few of those peppermint pieces and place them in there individually. Then you want to bake for 8 minutes, again keeping a very close eye on them. Then if you want to actually use them to hang or as ornaments, you're going to take a toothpick and lightly spray with some Pam. Then you're just going to start making the incision into the candy molds. Now after your molds have completely cooled, now you just want to start popping them out of the cookie cutters. So here's where I messed up. This is the first one I was working on, so it's kind of a given. So I made the mistake of actually lifting it and then trying to pop it out that way opposed to leaving it onto the actual cookie sheet itself. So as you see here, mine actually broke, my poor little snowman. But as I worked with the other two, I left them on the cookie sheet themselves and then started kind of working at it, trying to remove it from the cookie sheet, and then those two came out perfectly. So here you see my little gingerbread man. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the stocking, which popped out so easily, it was crazy. And again, I did lose my little snowman, but oh well. Now here I am comparing the two again. I'm sorry for the camera to be so shaky, but again, the left is Target and then the right is the dollar store brand. But they both came out really well. Again, the only offside is the color. Now we are going to work on our peppermint spoons. You first want to crush your peppermints. I just placed a lot of the peppermint candies into a Ziploc bag and took a mallet to it and just did it that way. Then you're going to start placing all of the little fine chopped peppermints into your mold. Then you're going to bake for 8 minutes, and as you can see, they do begin to kind of sink in when they melt. So you are going to have to fill them up for a second time and then bake them again for another 8 minutes. Then once you have removed it for the oven, just let them cool, let them set, and once you have let them set, then you want to start working with taking them out of their molds, just being very careful with this step. So again, the ones on the left are from Target, the ones on the right are actually from the dollar store. So I'm just kind of comparing the two when popping them out of the mold. So as you can see, I start to have some problems with the ones from the dollar store. It actually became very fragile and a lot actually kept breaking. And the reason this mold on the right side from the dollar store has less is because this is the second time I actually baked them. The first time I baked them and took them out of the mold, I forgot to record. My bad. So I thought I'll go ahead and bake them a second time and record it this way. So even after the second time baking it, I still ran into problems with my mold and they did keep breaking. Opposed to the Target brand, not one of them actually broke. And here are the comparisons: left Target, right dollar store. And you can tell the color is pretty different between the two. Now the last pin we're putting to the test are the Peppermint Kiss cookies. So the recipe actually calls for homemade cookie dough, but I thought maybe the fail in these were just using store-bought cookie dough and that's why they didn't come out right. So I thought might as well just take the easy route, might be what other people are doing, and see how that comes out. So of course I'm using my chilled cookie dough, then I'm rolling them into balls, and then I'm going to place them back in the fridge for another 20 minutes so that they actually harden a little bit. Then you're going to bake for the allotted amount of time. Then you're going to start placing your Peppermint Hershey Kisses on top of them, and I might have let mine cool a little too much, so I just started kind of forcing the peppermint down and they started melting on their own perfectly. And I don't know, I was able to do all of these peppermint DIYs without any issue, so I think they all work. Maybe there was some like shortcuts that were tried that didn't work out so well, but I hope you enjoyed this video, everybody, and thank you for watching, and please subscribe.